to the B says I gotta catch them fish. L to the B says I gotta catch them fish. L to the B
down in that
says I
leafy
gotta
cover.
catch those fish. LTB says I gotta catch those fish.
What's up, guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here on behalf of Lucky Tackle Box, and today I want to introduce you to the Beast Coast Fishing tungsten weights and punch stops, specifically designed around bass fishing to be super smooth, super heavy, and to match that punch weight just perfectly to lock in there. Phenomenal in regards to bass fishing. If you're not using it, you need to be, so let's get started. Okay, so let's break down this Beast Coast Fishing tungsten weight right here. This is a 3/8 ounce. So you could call it a, ow, that thing poked me. You can call it a heavy flipping or a punching weight. Traditionally, I refer to weights an ounce and over as punching weight, but in theory, you're still doing the same thing. You're going down the shoreline, you're flipping into heavy cover, you're trying to penetrate it, you're trying to punch through it. So I guess any matted vegetation you're trying to penetrate with a tungsten weight like this here can be referred to as punching. So we'll call this 3/8 ounce tungsten punch weight right here. There you go. Now it comes with 10 bobber stops. They've especially designed these little bobber stops, and I'll give you a close-up, to go right in the tip of their punch weight right here to make it taper down perfectly when it connects to the line. Why is that nice? Well, traditionally a lot of bobber stops will slide through a tungsten weight because the hole's a little bit bigger on tungsten than it is a lot of the leads. Now what Beast Coast Fishing did is had this thing extremely high polished. I believe it was 10 times polished, and do I know exactly what that means? No, but I'll tell you what it's good for. It's good for not having to have an insert inside your tungsten weights. If you look at some of the old tungsten weights, you'll see they had an insert inside there. And why they needed to do that is because the tungsten inside the hole where it was drilled out was abrasive, and people thought it was leading to cuts and breaks of their line, which it very may been the case that it maybe did break them off and cut their line. But that high polished inside is going to prevent that from happening, and a quality bobber stop is going to prevent it from sliding up and down your line. Now let me show you. I have one directly rigged right here. I have a little crawfish bait right here, a little armor craw, on a 3/0 flipping hook, and this happens to be 80-pound braid. I was using this identical setup to punch water hyacinths, pennywort, and yellowleaf on the California Delta. Today I'm out here at Salt Springs Reservoir. So I'm gonna pull that weight. There's that little Beast Coast tungsten weight right there, and you can see that bobber stop. Now kind of get a close-up, and you can see that it's got a head on it and a narrow shaft. Now I know that sounds funny, but that's exactly what it has. And what that's for, it's to keep your weight pinned on the line. And you can see you literally have to pull on that to get it to go. And it slides, that little shaft part slides right in the nose of that tungsten weight, and then you have more of a taper on the tip, which is gonna help it come through that matted vegetation a lot easier, and it's not going to pull through that weight. Therefore, I'm gonna have that whole unit right there pushed up really close to the head of my hook. Now what's gonna happen is when it hits that matted vegetation, if you don't have a punching stop on there, that weight's gonna slide free. The weight's gonna hit the bottom, and your package, your whole lure and your hook is gonna be sitting right on top of the matted vegetation, and your weight's gonna be on the bottom. You don't want that. What you want to happen is as that weight penetrates, it's going to drag your presentation through the mat. You're gonna punch into the mat, and it's gonna drag your presentation right through. So that's what that punch stop is for with that tungsten weight. Now, a lot of the time when it comes to flipping and punching, guys are using snell knots. Now, I'm gonna explain this. The bigger and heavier weight you go, the wider the diameter of that weight is. Therefore, when you set the hook, if the bass grabs over it and you set the hook hard, that weight has to exit that bass's mouth before the hook gets them. The problem traditionally with knots, that when you set the hook pulls straight. So as that weight pops the bass's mouth open, the hook has an opportunity to escape. So with a snell knot, and you don't necessarily have to do this on a 3/8 ounce weight. You know, I generally do it from a 1/2 ounce weight and heavier, but I tie the snell knot, and I want you to see what happens as that weight pushes against the head of the hook. You see that? It forces that hook to cavitate out to the side. Therefore, when the hook and the weight and everything's trying to exit that bass's mouth, it's going to hit, and it's going to cause that hook to drive out to the side. As that hits the front of the bass's mouth trying to escape, it's going to force that hook out sideways, and it's going to drill them deeper in the side, the roof, or the bottom of the jaw no matter what, it's not going to escape straight with the weight. It's going to be cavitated out to the side, driving that hook in when that bigger weight is trying to pop that bass's mouth open. Now, when it comes to flipping with weights like this Tungsten Weight here by Beast Coast Fishing, what you want to keep in mind is that you're penetrating heavier cover. When you hook that fish, he's going to be down into heavier cover. So the equipment you're going to want to use are heavier rods, heavier, stouter rods with enough tip, a little soft enough tip to where you can still pitch and flip into the exact target that you want. Let's say if there's a branch right there, you still need control. You don't want to throw with a 2x4, but that rod needs to be a heavy or an extra heavy. You are using that heavier line. And the thing you really want to keep in mind is that you're hooking them and pulling them out your line angle. I want you to imagine this. Imagine this is my target and this is me standing on the boat. If I pitch a line into here, the longer my rod is, the more leverage I have to pull the fish straight through the mat. If I have a shorter rod, it's gonna pull harder against the matted vegetation. So the longer the rod, the better. You get more leverage and you're gonna lift him up out of the matted vegetation, over the top and into the boat. If you have a short rod, you're gonna be dragging more vegetation with you, and the odds of losing that fish tend to be much higher. So when would I flip with a Beast Coast Tungsten Weight like this here? Anytime it's sunny, if there's not a cloud in the sky, the fish are gonna move deeper, they're gonna move under heavier cover. Another good time too, on those same days, early in the morning and later in the evening, the shadows are gonna get long and flipping's not nearly as effective during low light hours. So a little tip that I like to give people, once the shadow of your body is the same length of your body or shorter, is a perfect time to start flipping matted vegetation. The reason why the shadows are long, it makes it much more difficult for a bass to get out and run its prey down. So oftentimes they're gonna move under that matted vegetation where there's very low light, the ultraviolet is not penetrating through that. They're gonna sit in there in the dark spots and wait for a bluegill to move through, and they're gonna ambush them. All I'm doing is making simple little soft pitches in, letting that weight pull it right down through that matted vegetation like that. And as soon as the fish grabs it, all I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna hit them with everything I have. I'm gonna reel down and just lift up real hard. You have low stretch line with fluorocarbon or braid, and that hook's gonna penetrate them, especially if you use that snail knot. I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman, guys. Hopefully you like this video. If you like our YouTube channel here, make sure to subscribe below and check out all of our other awesome videos. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.